Hey everyone, it's Josh in editing. There is going to be a little bit of bonus content at the end of this episode, but I did just want to just kind of update you guys on what's going on. Lane is not going to be returning necessarily, at least as a regular co-host with me. He's just kind of busy, can't really commit to it. We have decided to keep the show going. I'm gonna have on some friends and just people I know as some guests. So be on the lookout for that in upcoming weeks. This is the first one. I don't really have a set schedule, and I'm not really gonna set myself to one. I know that's not really the best practice in terms of being a creative, but I think that was one of the things that really burned us out last time is just having these really strict deadlines. It's also a lot harder since, a lot of my friends are students just like me. And so it's really hard for us to all coordinate like that between different people's schedules. This episode is with my friend Alex. And it's on. Also, I realized that we're not going to really be able to do that whole of like what we'll do next week. I'm gonna try my best to get them booked ahead of time so that I can let people know and hopefully have that knowledge, but I can't always promise it, so apologies. I know it kind of takes away from like the book club aspect that none of you are doing, but in the meantime, before that little bit of bonus content, we only did a little because it was the first time recording with both people in the same physical space. Enjoy this episode on Andy Schauf's The Party and Dogman. What up, pimps? Welcome back to One for the Other podcast. We're back. I know everyone missed us so much. Just all the support, really appreciate it, guys. Our inbox is just empty, just barren. So thank you so much for that. But yes, we are back. This is the first episode in our run of guest speakers. I have with me, I'm Josh, as always, and you are?
I'm Alex Kimos. I am Josh's friend and a filmmaker, and I've never listened to this podcast, but I do like movies, and I like albums, so we'll see how this goes.
Great. All right. These will just be like normal. We'll just go through a movie and a record, we'll put them on the tier list. Don't you fret, guys. Don't you fret. It's all going to be okay.
I'm fretting.
Alex is fretting, but you don't need to fret because he's not a listener, so.
Yeah, I'm worried I'm going to piss off your 4 fans.
The 4 is very highest. All right. So I picked the record, and I decided to go with something. This is a record that I really enjoy. It's something I've actually really wanted to do since we started the podcast, but Lane and I had both listened to it already, so I couldn't do it, and I just wanted to so bad. And then when I went to choose one, I actually went to my playlist and I hit shuffle, and a different album by this artist came up, and I was like, oh, I can fucking do the record. I can do it. I get to listen to it. So the record in question is The Party by Andy Schauf. So Alex, what'd you think?
I liked it. I mean, I liked his kind of vibes. I feel like that's a bad word to say on an indie podcast. But, I don't know. I'm a fan of songwriters because I think it's much more difficult to just be a songwriter and a musician and do everything yourself, which I'm pretty sure he does. And versus, you have a whole team of writers and you have a whole band behind you and you can just sing, it's much harder to do it on your own. And I mean, from my research on the album,
Ooh.
He did record it all as one album and then he decided to do it. What the hell?
Sorry, there's children screaming. It's Denver.
Jesus. I mean, yeah, it happens. But then he decided to re-record it. Okay, re-record it with the party theme, which, I mean, that sounds rare to me, because, very rarely you get done with a project, and then you're like, fuck it, I'm going to redo the whole thing around this one thing. But it works, I liked it.
Yeah, so you like the concept of, the party and the how well did that come through as just, a first-time listener of, this is all taking place, these are all different people at the same party?
I mean, I think came through pretty clear. Like with the magician, that first song, you can tell it's about him because I mean he's like referring to himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest, like a lot of those songs are like labeled by the person. So like Alexander All Alone towards the end, and Martha Sways, like these are about certain people, and the ones that aren't, you can kind of tell because he's referring to someone's emotions or their actions at this party that's all taking place at the same time. And from that, I feel like each person that he was singing about represented a certain theme. Like, fuck, what was that one song? Oh, Eyes of Them All. I think that was my favorite one.
Really?
Yeah, because it was different from the rest. Because it was like growing confidence, and a lot of the other songs I felt dealt with like loneliness at a party or like fucking awkwardness about being around other people. Like Alexander All Alone.
Yeah.
And then, but that one.
Well, he dies in that one.
True.
That's less about being lonely and more about, actually dying. And maybe, okay, that was one I meant to look up, actually, because I've always wondered, like, okay, the vocals are hard to understand. That's one thing. He very much slurs the vocals. I just double-checked, because I was like, is he American? Does he have an accent? What? He's from Canada, so I should be able to understand him. But, it seems like he's just kind of set in purgatory, maybe, or something, like the idea of, like, hell is found inside of me, so his hell is just not moving on to another life.
I don't know. I mean, I was curious about Martha Sways. That was the one song that I didn't understand a lot, because it was like, he's talking about the devil is, like, beside you, and then at the end, she decides to go with him, which I'm wondering if that's the devil, or if, like, it's Andy.
I feel like Martha Sways is just, like, this guy who's in a new relationship, but he's not quite over his ex, it seems like. And he's in this moment. It's a slower moment. Like, swaying isn't really a dance that you would do with, like, like a big old dance music or anything. Like, it's a smaller thing, and the whole thing has, like, that acoustic guitar, which is really nice. And it's just like him, he's just kind of like reminiscing and thinking about like, oh man, I miss her so much and all these things, it's not the same. And he's like, I want to die, I hate this, I'm not happy. But then like she brings him back. And I think it's just a thing of like getting in your head, which is like a thing we've seen before with like The Worst in You, or Worst in You, whatever that song's called, which I really enjoyed. The Worst in You, where the guy is like, oh, I thought you were cheating on me. I always see the worst. I hate that I am like that. I always just see the worst. That's so annoying. Mm-hmm. I really like that. Something interesting, I don't know, maybe I'm just a fucking dumbass, but for me, The Magician almost feels like a zeroth track. It reminds me of tarot cards, because the Magician is a tarot card, and of the like major arcana there is a 0. I don't think it is the Magician. I'm not sure. Wait, is my deck here? Oh no, my deck's out front. It feels like a 0th track, because then you get to Early to the Party, and it's like, well, if this track takes place before the party even starts, what is this? What is this track before that? And I mean, I don't know. Do you feel like the album moves chronologically through the party?
Yeah, I do. To me, it reminded me of a book, which the best albums, I think, are like that. Like, it's easy to just compile a bunch of songs that you made and then throw it all into one thing and title it. But then it's another to have a story go throughout. And I mean, he doesn't necessarily connect each song to each other. Like, you don't hear these characters in the other songs, really, except for maybe Andy. As the Magician throughout. Yeah. But yeah, I agree where I felt like, not as a tarot card like you were saying, but I felt the Magician was almost like a prelude, like the intro to the album, and then the rest this is within the party. Because I think the second song too, correct me if I'm wrong, is the one where it's like Early to the Party.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's almost set before the party, and then you have Early to the Party, and then from there it's like everything about people showing up and people like dancing there and how they act and how they behave with other people. And then towards the end, I felt like he was getting into heavier themes, which is why I like Eyes of Them All, because it's like, to me, it just felt like the character in that was like growing out of her shell and she didn't care. Mm-hmm. Versus, Alexander All Alone and Martha Sways, to me, just felt a little darker.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely are. Eyes of Them All is honestly one of my least favorite tracks.
Just the end? all those ones towards the ends?
I think of the entire album. I don't know. It's just one that just doesn't click with me.
Mhm.
I love playing this in the car and like screaming it, like belting it out. It's really great. But Eyes on the Wall is just one I can't. I don't know what it is. I really enjoy. I think I don't know. Worst in You is one of my favorites. Quite Like You. I think
I
that
like
one's
that
really interesting, especially the twist at the end. Sherry is actually an interesting like kind of character because Sherry comes up a lot.
Mhm.
Like, Quite Like You is about Sherry, and Begin Again. They mention Sherry. Like, I don't give a damn about you fooling around behind Sherry's back. Like Sherry comes up a few times. It's interesting when you really think about it how few characters there actually are, because it's like Sherry, Jimmy, Alexander, and Martha. But that's like 4 characters in this, like however many 10-song record. Because a lot of it is really just like you, her, me, and it's kind of I really enjoy that. Like Worst in You, no characters are named. It's just
Yeah.
I fell for my light. I heard you from up the stairs. You were in the living room. So it's a really interesting thing of like, it really feels like maybe it is a small party. That was something else I wanted to bring up. One really weird thing, the more I've listened to this, is I can't tell how old these people are. And also why I kind of thought maybe he was British because they all smoke cigarettes.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I mean, I know a lot of people still smoke, and this album came out, 2016? 2016, so like, there were some people smoking cigarettes, but like,
Mhm.
who are all these people smoking cigarettes and like having a party? Like, is this a high school thing or like is this college age? I was so confused. Like, what do you think?
To me, I felt like it was like, I mean, the whole sound of it, and I haven't really listened to his other stuff, so I can't say if like this is just how he makes music. But it reminded me of like more classical indie kind of, almost not necessarily rock, but that kind of like atmosphere of like almost late 60s kind of sound to me personally. Maybe I'm a dumbass, but that's what I got. And so to me, it felt like it was like somewhat contemporary, but not super contemporary. Because, you know, there's like party songs that like deal with contemporary themes, and he doesn't mention that at all. It's more like just he mentions cards and drinks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And to me, I felt like they were older. I didn't really get a high school vibe out of it, but I felt like they all knew each other and were like what you said in a smaller party, but somehow like they were hurting each other in a way. And I mean, even in the cover art,
Yeah.
there's like only so many few characters.
That's true.
So to me, it felt like maybe mid to late 20s, but it could be college age, and it could even be high school. Although I don't. To me personally, I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just, it's a little bit strange. I mean, also, they do mention it's a small town, it's a city the size of a dinner plate. So that definitely helps, too, with, like,
Yeah.
the idea of getting there.
And I'm sure in Canada, too, like, there's a shit ton of there's a shit ton of small towns in America.
That's true.
But, like, in Canada, like, unless you're in Toronto or Vancouver, I feel like you're like, well, I know everyone in here.
Yeah. And if you're smaller towns, typically more rural, you're gonna tend to see more smokers.
Yeah, and this felt rural too to me, which
Yeah.
might tie into that smoking and all that. Because just to me, it felt like with his strings and what he was saying and like the intimacy of it, it just felt more rural. And I feel like especially like country music, kind of. Although I don't really like country music, just feels a little more intimate to me versus more urban and city-based music. Always sounds more like modern and like techno even today,
Yeah, there's definitely, I was thinking about like the instrument when I was like, because I think, you said vibes earlier, and I think atmosphere also. It's just like, this album has a great atmosphere. It really captures the feeling of like, I've always described it as like 3 a.m. with friends. Like, you've reached the point past, even when you're having so much fun, and like everything's all crazy, even in those middle of the album songs where the party's in full swing, it's still a bit slower. And I was like, it's not, I don't know, it's maybe kind of synth. I don't know enough about music really, but like just some keyboard, some synth maybe, a lot of string. Yeah, that like aspect of like a lot of the strings, and you can hear like there's some orchestral parts. I think really, yeah, add to all of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like, I think atmosphere is a better word than vibes, because I said that and I was like, that's a shitty term, because I did feel like, and it goes by pretty fast because it feels like it's all set in this one night, which it is.
Right.
But, and I mean, nights like that feel fast, especially if you're having fun, or even if you're not having fun. Like, it feels like it can go by really fast. And even though most of the songs are pretty slow, I think some of the ones towards the beginning are faster, but they all kind of have this slower tone to them, I felt, but it still goes by pretty fast for being like 40 minutes long.
Yeah. What would you say is like your least favorite track?
I wasn't a fan of the middle tracks necessarily. I think I got lost, but I was also eating, so I probably got distracted. To me, I liked Begin Again a lot, actually, because that had, like, some cinematic parts to me. And I don't know if that was, like, orchestral strings or, like, almost a synth almost. But, like, when it has that drop, it felt very cinematic to me. I mean, there's very few songs that I hate when I listen to music.
Right.
But there's a lot of songs I forget. And there's, like, songs in here that I forgot. Like, Twist Your Ankle and To You, honestly, were probably the two that I forgot the most. Like, we haven't even talked about Twist Your Ankle, because to me it was just like...
Yeah, that's a weird song. It's kind of, the message doesn't quite hit as much of just like, I'm embarrassed. It's kind of early to the party part too, I feel like. Where it's just like, oh, I want to go home, I'm so embarrassed. And it's like, we kind of just covered that same trend of like, not fitting a social norm. But I mean, speaking of To You, I think that had a great like moment after like, because it's all about this guy kind of like coming out to his friend and kind of being like, hey, do you also feel this way? And when his friend doesn't reciprocate, just like going back on all of that. And I thought that was really interesting because what he does with it, where he kind of builds up and he reaches the point, it's like, does it ever feel like that to you? And then it goes into this instrumental bit and it's real orchestral. And then it builds, and then he's backtracking, where it's like, that's almost where his friend is responding, but we don't hear that. But he's like intentionally spaced that out, and it kind of comes in, it builds really quick, and he hits really hard with this really intense backtracking of like, oh, I'm just really tired, and I've had a few drinks, and I don't even know, you're a really good friend, like, don't worry about it, whatever, like, it's nothing, and yeah, no, just go tell the guys, it's so funny, I'm not in love with you, what? So I really actually liked To You.
Along with that, I mean, I feel like he is definitely one of the characters there. Like, you mentioned, like, there's Jimmy and Cherry and Alexander and Martha, but I mean, Andy's also there, and he's the one that's like in every single one. And I mean, a lot of the songs are about a certain character, like we mentioned, but I mean, when I was listening to it this morning, I was like, this feels like it's just like about this one character, but I think every single one of them is from his perspective, obviously, of watching them and making, I don't want to say judgments, but like what he thinks that they're going through, or what he admires about them sometimes, or what he feels about them, like emotionally or romantically even. And so it kind of all passes through him.
Yeah. Cool. That's pretty much all I have. Do you have anything else?
Let me look at my notes.
Yeah.
Make sure we got everything.
My one note that we kind of half brought up.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of hit on all the thoughts. A lot of the stuff I had feels like, one of the other big points I had was it feels really autobiographical. Biographical.
Biographical.
Biographical. Biographical.
Biopic.
Yeah.
This album is a biopic.
It is. But it makes me feel like it's like almost like he's lived through this party. Like, he knows exactly what's happened and this has happened to him, and he's writing it from a memory of that night, like years later. So that's kind of a thing that I got, which that atmosphere of like, it feels rural and it feels to me like set in the past almost would make sense if he's like writing it and making it from this memory of this party that's actually happened to him.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. It definitely adds, I mean, the dreamlike quality, the atmosphere's late, feels almost not real. The slurred vocals was the note I had down of, like, like we talked about how it's hard to understand him. It adds to the sense of like you're at a party. Like he sounds intoxicated, which is like he's at a party. He's drinking. They mention alcohol multiple times. Of like, look at this half-wit spilling his guts after a bottle of wine. Like thought this would be a good time. Now I can't finish my drink.
And that slurred speech, too, comes mostly in those songs towards the end, too, which is those ones that you didn't love as much. And so that makes sense. He's like, he's sloshed. So, of course, he's going to be, like, at the end of the party, like, ugh.
Or in the case of Alexander All Alone, he's dead. So that makes it also hard to speak.
It does. Unless you're a ghost.
You know what they say, dead men tell no tales. Just a very bad speech impediment.
Yeah, I've watched Pirates of the Caribbean. I like when Johnny Depp has a speech impediment.
All right. Let's rate this.
All right.
You go first.
I don't really rate albums. I mean, I have, like, like, not as much as movies. Like, I have, like, my favorites of all time, and then I have ones I'm like, I'll listen to this. I like this album. And then I have, like, below, like, everything else. But, like, in your little tier alignment...
We'll rate it out of 10.
Out of 10?
We'll do the tier list next.
How specific? Can I throw in some decimals?
No.
Oh, shit.
Full integers only. I can go if you need to think.
I kind of... It depends. On a first listen, I would say a 7 out of 10. If I listen to it more, it might grow to like an 8 out of 10, or it might shrink to like a 6 out of 10. It's something that I'm like... I don't know if I would listen... I would probably listen to it again, but not soon. Like, it's not something I'm going to be like, oh, fuck, I want to listen to this album again. It might be like an album that, like, I hear something and it reminds me of that, and I'm like, oh, I want to listen to that again. So I feel like 7 out of 10 is just that range of, like, I don't want to listen to it too much, but it was good enough for me to finish the whole thing and not text you and be like, fuck this album, I don't want to listen anymore.
Yeah, well, I obviously really enjoy it, so no surprise. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, honestly. I think there's a couple songs that just don't quite hit hard enough to make it a 10, but otherwise, I fucking love this record. It's one I've been meaning to get on vinyl for ages. It's great.
How many times have you listened to it?
Lots. I mean, I listened to it a lot of times this week, and I just listened to it a bunch in the past. I mean, I can sing along with most of the songs.
Damn.
So... that's why I was like, that's why I don't necessarily like Eyes on the Mall, because it's one of the only songs I can't really sing along to. Like, for some reason, lyrics just won't click for me.
Lyrics don't click to me in any song.
Can't help that you're a dumbass.
I had to look up the songs up on Genius and read along, so I knew what was going on.
Alright, in terms of the tier list, where are you thinking to put this?
To me, I would probably say a C. In the tier list. It could be a B. If you want to put it in the B.
See, because I wanted to put an A, so I'm okay with B.
Okay, let's go with B.
Okay.
So we're even.
So here's the thing with this. We limit the amount of albums that can be an S, A, and B. So B is at its limit right now.
Damn.
So to move something into B, we're gonna have to take something out. I don't know how many of these records you even know, but
so I mean,
we have Floors by Mulchat Doma, Superfuzz Big Muff by Mudhoney, Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, Fuck the System by The Exploited, Blood by Leon La Havas, and Yeche by Altin Goon.
Okay, I only know Pet Sounds and Blood. And I feel like those are two pretty good B level. I feel like you guys have a whole system and a whole, like, community, and there's some fan out there like, don't you fucking move my album!
We have it on Tiermaker so that fans can make their own. Not that we have enough fans to actually do that, but the template is in there, and we always upload it with we update it with the new record and movie poster, so that if anybody wanted to, they could actually make their own tier list and keep up along with us.
Damn, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you had fans, that would be cooler.
If I did.
I don't know. You know me, I'm not a super big fan of punk. I mean, I like punk, but I don't like death metal. So if you got any of that, get that shit out of here. You can go to a C.
That's like exactly what The Exploited is.
Yeah, get that shit out of here. It's got skulls. I don't like that.
It's skulls with mohawks. Mohawk skulls.
It reminds me of like the Mexican men in pickup trucks on the highway that chase me down the road because they're aggressive. Because their
Listen,
wife won't have sex with them tonight.
no, they were from the movement out of England. I forget what it's called, but it was one of the original skinhead movements before the Nazis took it over.
Oh, that's not good. Get that shit out of here. Get it out.
You know what? That's fair. I will move it down just because it's definitely the most generic, and I've listened to that album a lot. It keeps coming up on like my shuffle, and I'm kind of over it, so I am gonna move it down.
Sick, yeah.
I don't have the album cover pulled up, but I'll put it in there when I go to edit this. Cool. So you picked the movie. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I gave you technically 3 choices. I really wanted to watch a foreign language film. So I gave you 3, and you chose Dogman, which is something I've been wanting to see. So that's an Italian film from Matteo I think it's Gorman. I forgot. Garrone. Matteo Garrone. And he's actually the guy who directed Gomorrah in the early 2000s that inspired the TV show. And the TV show slaps. And from there, it's created a bunch of other Italian creators and directors that I really, really like. But yeah, I mean, do you want to have me give a quick synopsis about what it's all about? So Dogman's about this guy, Marcello, who lives in a really poor kind of coastal community in Italy, and he is kind of he's this really small guy, like the actor who's also named Marcello, is like this super teeny guy, but he has like this look to him that makes him feel like really vulnerable, but he loves dogs, and so he runs this shop called Dogman in the neighborhood, and he's friends with all the other local business owners. But there's this neighborhood bully, Simone, and he's friends with Simone too because he sells coke to him basically, and everyone else hates Simone because we all have that bully in our lives, of like you can't do anything because they're just fucking bigger than you and they will just toss you around, and that's Simone.
Yeah, for me that's you.
Really? I mean, no. I've heard that before.
No.
I've been called a bully way too many times.
Continue.
But I don't want to, spoil anything. But it's really Marcello...
We go into spoilers.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, it's really Marcello having to grow up, especially when Simone starts to fuck with him because he goes to jail for a year for taking the downfall for Simone breaking into one of these other... the pawn shop in the area, and the owner of the pawn shop Marcello is friends with, and Marcello takes the fall for Simone, and he spends a year, and then Simone's just a dick, and he's like, I don't have your fucking money, and he beats the shit out of Marcello, because Marcello beats his bike up, that is Simone's, prized possession that he loves, and eventually, in the end, he has to kill Simone, spoiler alert, and I liked Dogman, and it reminded me of The Party, because both of them felt atmospheric, like a fantasy tale, both of them. The Party felt like this could be real, but this also could not be real. And Dogman to me felt real, but a lot of the imagery and stuff felt like I mean, one of the critiques and reviews in the trailer and in the poster is if Scorsese did a fantasy tale, and I can see that because it feels there's parts of it that feels really almost like a fable. And both of them, at least the Eyes of the Mall from The Party, again, going back to that album, reminded me of Dogman the most, because it felt like growing out of your comfort zone, which Marcello really has to do, because he has to, it's at the core, it's like a David versus Goliath tale, because he has to grow up to protect the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think one thing about the fable thing that really stuck out to me was the location and the town that they're in, because like you said, it is coastal and it's kind of surrounded by town. It almost feels like a post-apocalypse thing. It's this town that's kind of isolated, just in the middle of it. Feels like it could just be in the middle of an empty desert. But it's just totally self-standing. It's clear that could totally be real. I'm sure they just shot in some Italian coastal town.
Yeah.
But just the way that they're showing it and all, and you don't really see people coming in or going out of the town ever. It's all focused in the town. It feels very isolated, or some place that exists outside of the rest of the world. And one thing that does that is the wide angle shots that they hold on, which I really fucking loved. like they'd have these really wide shots and they weren't afraid to just kind of let them hang, and sometimes they would do that intentionally with like someone go in and then he gets kicked back out, like when he goes into the casino.
The casino scene, yeah.
There's just other shots where it's just like they just hang on a wide shot, like even it'll just hang a little bit and then it'll cut in, but I really enjoyed those
Shots that stood out to me the most were any of those wide shots of him like outside or near the dog man front of the shop, and you know how it has that like little arc coming out, like extension of the building basically, with lights, and like there's some during the day, but there's some where like at night there's one, it's like after he gets out of prison where like he gets out and there's all these people and like he starts to walk forward, and even like the forest scene when he's handing out pamphlets but also walking his dog to say he's the dog sitter now after prison, it's just like one long pan, and shots like that reminded me of The Lobster, and it also reminded me of a lot of those hanging wide shots reminded me of Joker too, which both movies, comparing Joker and Dogman, feel like they're obviously inspired by Scorsese a little bit, but Dogman's so much fucking better because Joker is just like, we're just gonna copy what he did, and Dogman to me feels like we're gonna take elements of that, but we're also obviously gonna take elements of Fellini and some of these other great Italian directors and have shots like that and like not perfect them, but make them different slightly. And I mean, like you said with those hanging shots, like film school, they're like, make sure you have coverage, make sure you're getting a wide, a medium, and a close-up. And this movie has a lot of just wides or a lot of just mediums for a whole scene, yet it's beautiful. And I'm like, but why can't we do that? We can do this and have a great film.
Well, I mean, a part of that comes together in the editing, too, and it's just holding onto those shots, which I think is really hard, especially for people, like a lot of us aren't very experienced with editing. Some of us are, but like, it's really easy as an editor, as I'm sure you know, to just like always just cut to whoever's talking, and those L cuts and those J cuts are really, that's what really makes this, it really makes that effective, is not only doing that, but like really committing to them, and just allowing those shots, knowing that that's going to happen, like getting that coverage, and then in the editing room, sticking with it. Because I know like when I edited like that Prod 1 film, I totally just drag editing or whatever Nate called it. It was just like cutting to whoever's talking, and it's so easy because you don't want to miss anything, or I don't know.
It's super like it's a trap that you can get in as an editor because it's convenient because you're like, who's talking? I need to have it on them. And Dogman doesn't do that all the time, which is another like it's great. Like the scene where he drives Simone and the other old man, like the other gang member dude, to break into that house, and then when they're driving back, they don't always necessarily show who's talking, but with the audio obviously you can tell who's talking, but a lot of it is almost focused on Marcello to see what his reaction, especially with when the guy's like, fuck, I left that chihuahua in the freezer, which that scene is like mind-blowing because it's a simple concept, but it's still, to me, it feels like something I've never seen it before. And Marcello goes back to breaks back into what they just broke into to steal stuff, and saves the chihuahua's life. And it's moments like that and the beginning too, which that's one of my favorite intros I've seen in a long time, where it's like probably 5 minutes, but you already know who this character is because it opens with this super aggressive like pit bull dog that he's washing, and it's super aggressive, and then it cuts to the dog's a little more tame but still a little snippy, and then at the end it's like fully at his control and loves Marcello.
Like, turn here.
Yeah, and it's like all from one shot too, like one angle, and just from cutting through time like that, and it's super easy, but you already know like, oh, this guy is like very good at getting animals to do what he wants, and on a bigger scale he does that with Simone, even though he has to kill him. But
he does. I mean, he gets him in a pretty good spot with like getting him in the cage. Kind of outsmarts him.
And like when he chokes him too, like one of the images when he's dead and there's the dog in the cage right next to him, to me that like feels like super like a fable or fantasy, because it's like he's like this, he looked like almost like an angel because he's wrapped up in white, and like the bondages are white too, and the whole thing just looks white, and to me I'm like, money shot.
Nice. I think one part of the visuals I didn't enjoy, once he gets out of prison, like first shot where he's like kind of walking back into the town, like literally right as he gets out. That they have this like blue, I think it's LUT that they put on over afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
It looked bad. It just looked too blue. I thought the rest of the film looked really good and realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Or like there was definitely some blue grading at points, but like it felt better. I don't know, something about it. It just felt, I was like, this is too blue.
I don't really remember that scene particularly and like have it really blue. I mean, you can definitely tell their colors instantly. Like there's a lot of blue and there's a lot of white and there's a lot of gray and orange too.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like it also has to play into the time of the day of when those are taking place. Like the ending from when basically the sun is rising and he goes to burn Simone's body and then he sees his friends playing soccer, which that's another thing I wanted to ask you of like whether you thought that was real or not. But then when he's like, oh, I'm going to show you what I did, and he drags Simone back, and then eventually at the very end of the movie he like leaves his body in the center square. Marcelo sits there kind of like he knows he's going to get caught, but also like, I saved you. I fucking saved the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And all of that gray and like the sun rising, the coloring I felt matched. And I thought it looked really good.
I thought for the most part it looked really good, and I thought they did a great job. It definitely felt atmospheric. It felt like it was just on the brink of rain a lot of the time, which is where a lot of that blue typically came from. I don't know, something just, that one scene, it just was a little too blue. Yeah, in terms of, if that was real, there's actually a few things about Marcelo's character that I just didn't quite necessarily understand the motivations behind. I mean, the biggest one is just, like, taking the fall for that hit. Like, I don't know, it just seems like this guy's caused him nothing but trouble. This is a foolproof way to put him away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe, he's thinking back to the conversation with the guy who runs the casino and that whole group of like, oh, he goes away for 2 months and then he's the problem. I don't know. I was just like, it seems like that's a perfect solution and he just kind of like didn't do it so that the movie could go on.
To me, there's two reasons for that. Is because he's still afraid of Simone and he's especially afraid of what he could do to his daughter. And to me, I love Marcelo a lot because he's a good dad, but he's not a strong man, which I mean, I feel like there's a ton of dads out there who are like very loving and very protective, but they're kind of, I mean, in the civilized society we have today, where it's like you gotta be a tough man to like get whatever you want, and Marcelo's definitely not that.
Right.
He's like the opposite of Simone because Simone is not empathetic. He does not give a shit about anyone else except for himself, but he's very strong and he's very tough. And Marcelo's very weak and very, like, not willing to stand up for himself or stand up for the neighborhood. And I felt like he was afraid to go up against Simone in that moment and, like, rat him out. And then after prison, he grows. But even when he destroys the bike, like, he runs like he's scared.
Yeah.
And he's still scared of Simone after that. And it's not until... really when he beats him up and then like the whole neighborhood kind of like comes at him at the same time his daughter is leaving with like her mother, and it's not that people are mad at him and yelling at Marcelo of like, you piece of shit, you let Simone break into the pawn shop and then you took the fall for him and you wouldn't rat him out, and then but it wasn't that. It was when he saw his daughter leaving that he was like, oh shit. I felt that was the moment when he's like, okay, I have to do something about Simone. And I think humiliating him with the cage was his plan, but then when Simone broke out, he was like, okay, I gotta kill this guy.
Yeah.
And even after that, he's just like a kind guy because he tries to stitch up Simone.
Yeah.
Remember, like, you're gonna be okay until Simone tries to choke him out, and then that's when he kills him. But all of it, I feel like, is him growing more and more to be tougher. And even when he kills him, like we just mentioned, he sews Simone up so he doesn't want to hurt him. It's when he drags his body out in front of the city hall that's the moment I feel like he's like, fuck it, I'm the tough guy now.
Yeah.
But I like his character because it reminds me of he's pretty weak, but he's also like a good dad. And those scenes where they're snorkeling, like, I love those scenes.
Yeah, those are cool. I mean, it's definitely really cool. Did you think the soccer players were real?
I don't know. That's the one part I have a big question mark over, because in one part it reminds me it could be true, but like in the previous parts of the movies when they're playing soccer, it's at night. and
Yeah.
you know it's at night because it's after when they've all gotten off work, and this is in the morning, like before probably most of them have woken up, and he's screaming at them, and yet they don't hear him. So I feel like it might be fictional in his mind because he's trying to get their attention of like, look at what I did. This is what I did. I saved the neighborhood, but then he realizes like in his mind that they're not gonna understand and they're not gonna believe him too, because even if it was like Simone disappears and they're like, oh, maybe someone killed him, they're not gonna be like, well, it's Marcello. It must have been some
Yeah.
other gang member dude. And so I felt that ties into why he has to pull his body into the town square so people know it was him that did it.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know. It just seems like... It seems weird to bring in this kind of, like, idea of, like a... what's the word? Like, untrustworthy narrator?
Mhm.
Unreliable narrator. Like,
Yeah.
that technique. It seems weird to just bring it in at the very end. I mean, it could also just be, like, they fucking hate him, so they're just out playing soccer, and then, like... I mean, you know, he has to take the time to put out the body and then to put out the fire and then grab the body and move it over. It's plenty of time for them to just pack up and go home.
Yeah.
Like if they were just playing and just like ignoring him and then he goes away and they're like, oh fuck, I don't want to be here when he comes back. So they like leave.
Yeah.
It could be, but I mean, it'd be way cooler if it was what you said because yours is like a better message. Mine is just like, yeah, they fucking don't like the guy.
Yeah, they don't like him. But I mean, yeah, I'd really like the movie, and I have feelings about his relationship with Simone because it's like something that like I know movies have done before and stories have done before, but it feels just very authentic and very real, especially when Simone takes Marcelo to that strip club place,
Yeah.
and he's trying to let Marcelo have fun, but then he's also kind of forcing him and teasing him too. At the same time. And I feel like we have all had that type of relationship as well with someone who everyone hates and you don't necessarily hate, but you understand why he's a dick,
Yeah.
but you just still kind of are their friend. And I've seen movies that do that, but I feel like Dogman does it really well because I think Marcelo does like Simone, but he's just afraid of him.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. I thought one note I wrote down was when he's moving the body, when he's putting it into the car,
Mm-hmm.
fucking police sirens going all down my street. About Colfax, like, it's perfect ambiance. But, it also just made me think of like the sound design in terms of their dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they really made they made use of echo and reverb really well to give a sense of space and like isolation. Like I said, like the location feels isolated. These characters often are talking and there's this big echo, and it really makes it feel like they're just in this giant room, and like they're talking over each other, stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that.
And I mean, there's not that many interior places. Like, there's a few within the town, and then obviously his dog shop that he has. But a lot of it I felt was exteriors outside. And like you said, it's a small town, a small coastal town. But with that echoing, it makes it feel bigger. And with those shots too, I feel like with the lens choices and those extreme wides that they had where you can see, you know, the whole town, especially when Marcelo's on the coast,
Right.
basically with the body, and you can see a lot of everything. You can tell it's small, but it also feels like this giant city at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like it's not even that the city feels big, it's just that Marcelo feels small. It's a small town and he is even smaller.
Yeah.
Like, it just goes to, with his, like, diminutive stature and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That it's like he's the smallest person in this really already small town.
Yeah.
And no, people like him, but they don't trust him. And I mean, I've been rewatching Breaking Bad, and it's that same idea of like when Walt gets to the point where he has enough money to support his family, but he still wants to cook because it makes him feel powerful and it makes him feel like a man. Like Marcelo is fine and content with just being the kind guy that everyone likes, but especially after his prison stint, I feel like he has this urge to feel respected.
Yeah, I mean, he says that, like, at the beginning, he's talking to Simone, I think it's about the first job that they do, and he's like, people like me, that's all I want, people like me, and then afterwards, when he's talking to his body, he's like, it's time for me to move on, people don't like me here anymore, I don't want to be, or that's what he says when he's trying to convince him of the job.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's like, I'm not liked here anymore. I just need to move on, go somewhere else where I can be liked. Like, that's all he wants is to just be accepted. And it's like, I think it's his need to, like, be accepted by everyone. It's not just like, oh yeah, all of his friends, but like, he needs Simone to like him too.
Yeah.
He needs that. And when Simone doesn't, and then when everyone else doesn't, he's like, alright, well,
And-
this is awkward.
Yeah, and like the actor of Marcelo is really, really good in that because, like you said, it's kind of like the same delivery of right before the pawn shop robbery. He's like, no, and he's like, people like me. I don't want to jeopardize that. And he acts like a tough guy of like, no, Simone. And Simone's like, come on, just let me talk. And he's like, there's nothing to talk about. Get out of my store. And then Simone chokes him and is like, no, we're gonna do this. You're gonna give me the keys. But in, like you said, before he gets Simone into the dog cage and before he kills him, he's almost playing it the same way, but just in his facial expression, he's like, no, Simone, and he's more playful. And I think he's playing into like, because if he does the tough man again, Simone's gonna be like, listen here, I'm not gonna do this because I'm the tough guy.
Right.
Versus when he's coming at him like his friend of like, we're gonna make a lot of money. These guys, you just hit them and we'll rob them of everything.
Here's some coke.
Yeah, and he uses the coke a lot too to get
Yeah.
into Simone's favor because, I mean, Simone, I think, somewhat likes Marcelo, but he likes him for what he can get from him, which is the coke. And from when there's Marcelo's dealer, like I think the bigger like drug guy
Yeah.
who's doing the ceramic stuff or puppetry in his shop, and Simone comes in and they fight and shit. Marcelo, one of the scenes that stood out to me of like his character was when he pulls out a gun and there's that guy that comes with like a wrench or whatever to hit Simone, and Marcelo is like, Simone,
Watch
like,
out.
watch
Yeah.
out. And that to me was like, okay, he's really on Simone's side and he feels like he needs to protect him from the neighborhood. And obviously we see that change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had. Do you have anything else?
I got a lot on this because I really, really love the movie. I think we hit a lot of the big parts, especially I felt like the dynamic of just parenthood. Especially between Simone and his mother, where it's always that like dick of he's trying to comfort his mother, but he's choking her out, and he's like, grab the rest of my
Get the coke,
coke
get the coke.
that she spilled. And Marcelo's daughter, Alidi, I think that's how you pronounce her name.
That's Alita.
Alita. I think it might be Alita. IMDb said Alidi with no A at the end, but I think it's Alita, how you pronounced it.
I don't know.
But, like, it's almost like those scenes, especially when his face is all fucked up and he has bruises and makeup covering it before they go snorkeling. And then that scene I think is great too, because like she's like, what's wrong? And he's like, oh, nothing. And he walks away and he's like, oh, where's our bags? Oh, you already got them in here? Okay. And he's like avoiding his daughter. And his daughter is super young. She's like probably what, 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
And it's like almost she understands that her dad is a weakling, but that he loves her. And so she wants to care for him too. And I thought she was really great, and Marcelo with her was really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the last hit points I had, but I really loved it.
Cool. Well, in terms of rating, I guess I can go first this time. I'm gonna give it. I'll give it an
It's hard, isn't it?
8 out of 10. I thought it kind of dragged in the middle a little bit, and yeah, some of Marcelo's actions I just didn't quite get the motivation. Like I kind of get it, but I don't know. So yeah, I'm gonna go with an 8.
Nice. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I really, really like this movie, and I really, really liked the shot selection and the story that they had. I felt, like you said, certain parts dragged a little bit too long, and I felt certain characters weren't very necessary either. Like the guy who helped rob the place with Simone, that easily could have just been Simone.
Yeah.
And he's like, I put the Chihuahua in the freezer. And Marcelo goes back to clean it up. It's characters like that show up that I'm like, well, you don't really need that person. But the rest of it I loved, and it's those type of films that I like. They're human, but also gritty.
Awesome. Well, yeah, okay, let's go to the tier list then. In terms of the tier list, where are you thinking of putting this? I want to put it in B.
Well, I mean, this movie list, you know, we were talking about it earlier. Your movie tier list, I don't agree with at all. Because, like, you got the fuck you Seth Rogen, which I'm like, hey, Seth Rogen should go above S-Class, if we're being
Have you
honest.
seen Pineapple Express? That's the movie there.
It's a great movie. It's
That
so
movie
fucking funny.
Fucking sucks,
No,
dude.
It's fucking funny.
No.
Dog.
You should listen to that episode. I think you'd die laughing.
Nah, I probably wouldn't, because I disagree with all of it. I fucking love Pineapple Express. Okay, James Franco's a piece of shit, so...
The whole movie's fucking bad. Anyways,
And then Zodiac, way too low. I mean, that's easily...
Zodiac is also shit.
Zodiac is one of David Fincher's top 2 films.
No.
Yes.
Wildly incorrect.
No, it's so fucking good.
Zodiac is awful. It's
Okay.
way too long, not focused enough story, and the sound design is shit.
Fuck, I don't give a shit about sound design.
I don't normally until I hear the same phone ringing in the background every time they're in the newspaper station or the police station.
It's because it's busy, Josh.
It's the same exact phone
It's
looped
busy.
the entire time, and they don't use it to add tension at all. It's fucking stupid and shitty.
It's busy.
I shouldn't be noticing that.
It's the mystique, and Fincher does that really well, and Zodiac is a good... Like, there's a lot of Zodiac killer movies or serial killer movies. Like, okay, I watched The Little Things, that new movie with Denzel Washington and Rami Malek and Jared Leto last night, and it was like that stereotypical, like, we know who the serial killer is, but we don't have enough evidence on him, even though he's a creepy piece of shit. And Zodiac has so many characters that are creepy pieces of shit that you're like, shit, I don't know who it is, and I
But,
get
like,
freaked out when they get
nothing
near him.
happens until, like, the break. Also, the jumps in time
Yeah.
don't help at all, because it just means that you can't tell when anything is, because they're jumping 1 or 2 days at a time.
Listen here, guys. Zodiac is a great
Listen
piece
here,
of
I've
cinema.
I've already explained why I fucking hate that movie.
I love that movie. You probably like Shutter Island, huh?
I haven't seen Shutter Island.
Okay, it's a piece of shit movie.
I probably love it.
It's awful.
Alright, so S tier?
I would say A tier. I mean,
I enjoyed all 3 of those films better than this. I want to do B.
what's that middle one again? It's Clint Eastwood.
That's Good, Ben the Ugly.
Yeah, that's probably. I think that's like a little better than Dogman. But Uncut Gems and I'm Thinking of Ending Things, I think are like up there in the A tier, but they're a little lower. Uncut Gems. I could do my whole podcast. I think I could do a whole podcast about how I feel about these movies.
I want to do B.
I mean,
What about B and move Inglourious Bastards?
I would say B and move the Naked Gun.
But Naked Gun was so funny.
Or Killing of a Sacred Deer. Oh no, that's pretty similar. But like I don't care. It's your podcast. Put it in B if you
We
want.
have to do it together. That's how that's why we have a tier list, is because we have to actually come together and agree on something.
Well, I want A and you want B.
Well, I know, but we have to agree.
Okay, put it in B because like I would say Dogman is slightly below The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but above Uncut Gems and I'm Thinking of Ending Things. But I would also say it's at the same tier as Inglourious Bastards, Goodfellas, and Moonlight. That those 3 movies are better than Uncut Gems and I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
What about B and move down Devil All the Time? I think that's what that one is.
I haven't seen that yet, so I don't know.
Ah, fuck. How have you not seen that?
I don't know. It's sitting on my list. Same with I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and I watched that 2 weeks ago, and I was like, what the fuck?
Okay, what about A tier, move down I'm Thinking of Ending Things, from B tier, move down Inglourious Bastards?
What do you got in there? In C tier, Snowpiercer,
So we can add as much as we want to C tier.
Green Room.
No, nothing down there.
You got some good movies down there. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, if you move I'm Thinking of Ending Things and Inglourious Bastards. What do you got against Inglourious Bastards, Josh?
I don't, it's just kind of average. I've just seen it so much.
Then don't fucking watch it. Just be like, this is a
We
good
did
movie.
watch it for this, and I haven't watched it since then, and ever since then I just look at it and I'm like, ugh, it's alright.
It's because you watch it too much.
No, I've only seen it like 3 times probably ever.
Well, I mean, when I was a kid, I thought Big Bang Theory was the best shit ever, and I watched it too much. I was like, wow, this is a bad show. This is not funny.
You try to argue that Big Bang Theory is a great show? Because by your logic, then it is good. If Inglourious Bastards is good, but I've watched it too much, then by your logic, Big Bang Theory is good.
No, I'm saying Big Bang Theory is bad. When I was 6, I thought it was good. And when I was 6, I thought Inglourious Bastards was bad. And I also probably thought, like, Goodfellas, Moonlight, Green Room, Uncut Gems. When I was 6, I probably would have just thought Snowpiercer and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly were good movies because they have fucking action. And maybe Swiss Army Man because it has a dead zombie dude who farts.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Normally, this would be the spot where we say what we're going to do for next week, but I don't really know.
We got Ellie coming on. Or who's your next? She's your next guest host.
I have a few people that are pretty much ready, but I just need to get their picks and figure out when we're going to record. So, I don't really know what we're doing next. Be prepared for another guest speaker. It should be fun. I have some cool people that I'm talking to, and maybe we'll actually have to edit, because Ellie actually has a mic, so I'm actually going to have to edit ours. And I don't know what Jack does. I'm sure he does. We can get Adobe for free. So, anyways, thank you for watching. Thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for totally sponsoring us. 100% real. Definitely not fake. We haven't received cease and desist, so I'm not going to stop saying it. Raid Shadow Legends, thank you for sponsoring us. Thank you, Alex, for coming on.
Oh, yeah.
Remember to follow us on Instagram at onefortheother.podcast. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Check out our website if you haven't already, which I guess I need to update. Maybe I'll just put a whole bunch. Maybe you should send me a picture and I can put you on the website.
Of me?
Yeah.
Picture of me?
That way I don't have to take down Lane's pic. I can just keep adding more pics of more people, and I'll write you a stupid funny bio.
Sick. I'll send you my mugshot.
All right, cool.
I'd be down to do this again.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe I just won't ever. Maybe I hate you.
Yeah, maybe you won't invite me back. You might. You might have some other guests that are like, oh shit, you want to be my co-host from the future? They're like, hell yeah, and I'm like, guess I'm chopped liver.
So check out the website, chartreuse-bellflower-dwfy.squarespace.com. It's linked in YouTube.
Squarespace or MySpace?
Squarespace.
You guys should have MySpace. You would be the type of guys that have MySpace still.
We have Squarespace. We started this a year ago.
Congrats.
Anyways, if you have a suggestion for what we should watch or listen to, feel free to send us an email, onefortheotherpodcast@gmail.com. Send us suggestions. Send us dick pics. We still haven't received a single dick pic in the email, which is very disappointing. Also, send us things to put on the website. We'll do anything. If you send us dick pics, we will make a dick pic gallery on our website. I'm not joking.
You'd probably get arrested for that, though.
If you send us a dick pic, you are giving us consent to put that on our website.
Do you need a pornography license? You think there's paperwork
to be against the Squarespace terms and conditions?
Oh, probably, yeah. For Squarespace. But I mean, I feel like you can. The software that they use for Pornhub and those type of sites are open source. And if you moved all of that there, maybe they have paperwork that's nudity's fine here.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out if one of you fuckers would send me a dick pic. God. Yeah, that's it. Bye.
Damn.
We normally do all we're setting up. Shit.
Damn.
Cool, let's get started.
Alright.